Well, hello everyone and happy Tuesday. It is WAFF 48 digital host AJ Wuest welcoming you all back to Before the Four, where I preview 48's top news stories and then some before our 4 p.m. newscast, which today and throughout NBC's coverage of the Summer Olympics in Paris will be streamed right here on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and the 48 Now live stream page on WAFF.com. So just a little reminder, a digitally streamed 4 o'clock newscast, as well as our noon, and our 5, 6, and 10 o'clock shows will be aired on television as normal. But now, with all of that said, let's now dive into some of today's top news stories. And starting things off, 48's Aria Pons will be bringing you all the story following up on the shooting death of a 16-year-old girl in Sheffield. If you're not familiar with this situation, the apparent drive-by shooting occurred last Wednesday on South Nashville Avenue around 1 a.m. Officers say when they arrived on scene, they found a 16-year-old girl lying in the grass. She was taken to Helen Keller Hospital, where she later died. Police say they do not believe the 16-year-old was the intended target for the shooting, and Aria has been in Sheffield all day today working to learn more about this tragic situation, and she'll have updates for you all coming up at 4. And now in Huntsville, where a Madison County judge today denied a capital murder suspect's request to be tried as a youthful offender. Now, Terrell Otay, who you see on screen there, is currently charged with capital murder in connection to a 2021 shooting on Sparkman Drive. Prosecutors say he shot a man during a drug deal. Otay will appear in court next month for a motion to suppress his statements. And now in Florence, in case you missed it, yesterday 48's Aria Pons brings you a story on some new renovations coming to one recreation center. Let's take a look.
The Handy Recreation Center has been in West Florence since the 50s, and the last renovation on the building was almost 24 years ago.
Change is an adjustment, but it's always good. It takes a lot for us to open ourselves up to change, but anything to bless this community and bless this area, I'm supportive of it.
April Chandler says it's about time the building gets a facelift. With this $1 million renovation, they are hoping to get new plumbing, repaint the walls, upgrade the kitchen and recreation areas, put in a new fencing and shade areas around the pool, and more.
But I do recall as a little girl, might come in here, playing here, coming to events here, taking swimming lessons here, multiple years. And it's just a staple of the community, and everybody looks forward to that.
District 1 Councilwoman Katrina Simmons says she has been fighting for these renovations for 3 years now because she knows what the center means to the people here. Simmons says the city has big plans for the center, starting with creating more programs and activities for the children.
So I'm hoping when the kids and the community come in this center, that they feel like they're in a new place that is loving and kind and just you feel free and at peace when you come in this environment.
This is just the first part of the renovations. The City Council still has to vote on approving another $1 million renovation to the center, where they plan on turning the extra showers and bathrooms into classrooms and activity rooms. Chandler says she just cannot wait for this renovation to be done.
I'll be the first, soon as it opens, to come back up here and put my feet in the water.
Well, thank you, Aria. And now in Huntsville, 48's Nick Ballinger, in a 48 exclusive, updates you all on one Madison County deputy after he was unexpectedly struck by a speeding driver. From Huntsville, Nick Ballinger reports.
It was a slow night for Detective Josh Mosley, but in an instant, that changed. He was parked monitoring construction work on I-565 when he was struck by a speeding driver who plowed right into his cruiser, blue lights blazing.
Stephanie had actually texted me, and I reached down to grab my phone to text her back. As soon as I grabbed my phone, that's the last thing I remember.
When he came to, his body crushed, folded into the floorboard with one leg up on the dashboard. He was rushed to the ICU and would spend the next 8 days recovering, and now on to rehab to relearn how to walk.
When you have a doctor sit there and tell you that it's a miracle that you're alive, let alone walking, brings a new perspective to life. Mainly right now, dealing with my hand is the biggest issue.
The nerve damage in his hand is just the tip of the iceberg. Mosley has broken 12 ribs, 3 fractured ribs, and 2 broken vertebrae, but is now smiling through it all.
I'll take these pains any day over not being here.
It was here on 565 near the Madison Pike exit where Mosley was hit and lost consciousness. But he tells me that there was one thing he had to do when he woke up.
First thing I knew I had to do was call her and let her know.
He called me and it was a fast, hey, I got in a wreck. And next thing I know, the phone was passed off.
It's a new relationship with Stephanie McBride, only 5 months in, and they both say this is the greatest test a relationship could go through. A test she's passed, spending every day by his side along with family and friends from the department.
I wouldn't be any other place, be right here for him.
Because I've got a life to give to Stephanie. We both have kids. I've got a life to give to them. I can't thank my family and friends enough.
For Detective Mosley, it's the little things he looks forward to and is determined to do it.
It puts everything in a different perspective. But yeah, I miss cutting grass.
Such a great update, and thank you, Nick. Well, if you've been feeling a little under the weather lately, you're certainly not alone. Health officials throughout the nation have been seeing a summer spike in COVID-19 cases. The good news, however, the state of Alabama currently has one of the lowest positive test rates in the entire country. But even if our numbers are relatively low, Dr. Wuest Stubblefield with the Alabama Department of Public Health says we are still seeing an increase in cases, or a seasonal surge. Earlier, 48's Claudia Peppenhorst spoke with Dr. Stubblefield, and let's take a listen to what he had to say.
That the primary symptoms are things like sore throat, cough, congestion, runny nose, potentially some low-grade fever. But it's important to note that with many respiratory viruses like RSV, COVID, and flu, those symptoms can progress to life-threatening symptoms in people who have underlying medical conditions that put them at high risk. And much like many of the other variants over time, especially over the last couple of years with the Omicron variants, is that the infectivity of the virus is very high. The complication rates are not particularly changed, and all of the tests and current available treatments are still effective. So that's all good news for people that are experiencing COVID.
Well, thank you. Well, starting August 1st, students here in the Tennessee Valley will be heading back to school. And WSFA's Julia Avant in Montgomery reports on the importance of setting a good sleep schedule for your young ones as they prepare for their first day back in the classroom. Let's take a listen.
Between vacations and camps, kids tend to stay up later during the summer, but with the school year coming up, educators say it's time to get back on a regular routine.
The children tend to come in, they're excited about being back at school, but that sluggishness hits in about midday because their bodies are tired.
Not having enough sleep can lead to a lack of focus and comprehension, which is why public health professionals like Dr. Wuest Stubblefield encourages parents to adopt new sleep schedules for their children before the school year begins.
The summer schedule doesn't need to end the night before school starts. It probably needs to be something that you're thinking about a couple of weeks ahead of time.
First, he says, consider your child's age. Typically, younger children need more sleep, needing an earlier bedtime. And some may need to wake up earlier to get off to a healthy start.
There may be implications for those that are on chronic medication therapy, like with diabetes or asthma, where the medications need to be given sort of consistently.
Even ensuring your child eats breakfast is important when creating a schedule. Electronics is also something to consider.
Take the phone away at least an hour to an hour and a half before bedtime so their bodies, or 2 hours, so their bodies can come down and rest.
And when kids are using their devices, Dr. Jeter recommends educational screen time during homework hours. Julia Avant, WSFA 12 News.
Certainly sounds like some advice I could even take. Thank you, Julia. Also, make sure you stick around for our evening newscast tonight, as 48's Matthew King will be bringing you all the story on back to school here in Madison County. So make sure you all stick around for that. And staying in a little state news, a man was rescued in Mobile yesterday after he was found hanging off the side of the tallest tower in the state. WALA's Ariel Mallory has this story.
I appreciate everything that they did today. That's the fastest I've ever seen any of them show up and work. Your equipment was good. You knew what you were doing. I mean, it's impressive.
A word of gratitude tonight to the people who helped save his life. Downtown Mobile was at a standstill this afternoon as Jared Cooper hung 450 feet from the air at the RSA Battle House Tower. Cooper is a window washer and says he's done this job 100 times, but he had an odd feeling.
I had a feeling something was going to happen last night. Something just told me. And then today I just thought, I was like, nah, it's probably just nerves. Just another job.
Today wasn't like any other job. The RSA Tower is the tallest tower in the state, standing at 745 feet. Cooper says halfway through his job, he noticed something was wrong.
Got out there, started having issues with my equipment, and said, well, it'll smooth out, and it always does. This time it did not. And I started feeling it catching when I was trying to descend on the upper levels. And so, okay, well, smooths out. Not, we'll deal with it when it comes time.
After fighting with the equipment for about 20 minutes, Cooper made a call to his manager for help. But he wasn't waiting alone. Cooper also called his mom to let her know what was going on.
He actually called me from up there and told me, hey, I'm hanging out on the side of the building and I'm stuck on this ledge. And I was like, oh, okay. And he didn't sound like he was upset. He was cool as he could be. I was flipping through Facebook and I looked and I saw this picture of this guy hanging off the side of the building, and I stopped and I looked at it. It's got to be Jared. Good grief, Jared's hanging on the side of the building.
The next call was to Mobile Fire Rescue. After being stuck for more than an hour, Cooper was safely pulled back over the ledge, a moment he and his mom don't take for granted.
There, my bucket caught on the ledge as they were pulling me over, and it was just, okay, well, they're trying to get it disconnected while I'm trying to disconnect the rest of my gear that's getting caught on everything. Just another day, it feels like.
Thank you for bringing my son home safely. I really am very aware of the fact that you guys were the difference between me seeing my son come home tonight for supper and me going down to identify his body at the morgue tonight. So it was crucial and timely, and y'all were awesome, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ariel. And now in some more state news. A former state representative was sentenced to 13 months in prison today, and he will have to repay $200,000 in stolen tax dollars. Now, John Rogers, who you see on screen right here, he represented Jefferson County in the state legislature for 40 years. He was forced to resign as part of his plea deal at the beginning of this year. Now, Rogers was sentenced for misappropriating Jefferson County tax dollars. WBRC reports that Rogers reached out to a youth baseball organizer to apply for a grant from Jefferson County Community Action Fund. This levied tax dollars to support local students. Rogers then agreed to secure the grant money for the youth baseball organizer. Throughout the course of 4 years, the organizer received over $400,000 from the fund. Rogers also received $200,000 and his romantic interest, Vari Johnson, $200,000 as well. Last week, Johnson was sentenced to 36 months in prison. The youth baseball organizer sentenced to 12 months, and all three will be required to repay the stolen tax dollars they received. And now in some national news, one of the largest wildfires in California's history is still growing at a rapid pace, as devastated families are returning to find homes in ruins. NBC's Steve Patterson has this story.
Firefighters battling the Park Fire, hoping to take advantage of cooler weather this week to increase containment of this massive blaze. Thousands are under evacuation alerts, dozens of homes destroyed, along with countless close calls.
Family and friends were like, you got to get out of there. I decided to stay. I had a couple of people with me to fight the fire, and we knew it was going to be bad. We just didn't know how bad it was going to be.
The man accused of starting the wildfire appearing in court for the first time, facing felony arson charges. In Central California, the 53,000-acre Burrell Fire leveling this historic mining town. and nearly trapping 2 Kern County Sheriff deputies.
We appear to be surrounded by fire. 10-4.
Thankfully, the officers survived. In Northern California, much of the burn zone covers areas that have been repeatedly impacted by wildfires, including Paradise, California, where 85 people died in 2018. Amid the devastation, moments of joy. These Rottweiler puppies and their mother, stuck when their owner's truck broke down, were rescued by Butte County sheriffs. A small victory as the war against wildfires rages on.
And such a devastating situation. Thank you. Now, in case you didn't know, this year is obviously an election year, and 2024 politics only continue to progress as Vice President Harris sets out on the campaign trail. Meanwhile, Trump and Vance refocus their attacks on the Democratic Party. NBC's Hallie Jackson has more.
The presidential race taking shape this morning with Vice President Kamala Harris set to hit the campaign trail and former President Donald Trump in a new interview backing up his new running mate, Senator J.D. Vance.
He's got tremendous support among a certain group of people that like families.
The former president referencing Vance's controversial comments from 2021, critical of Democrats without children.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
He's not against anything, but he loves family.
Mr. Trump also insisting that when he told a Christian audience Friday, you don't have to vote again in 4 years, he was not alluding to the end of elections if he wins, as some Democrats have suggested.
I said to the Christians in the room, don't worry about the future. You have to vote on November 5th. After that, you don't have to worry about voting anymore. I don't care, because we're going to fix it. The country will be fixed.
And the former president suggesting he may be ready to debate Vice President Harris.
I want to do a debate, and now people know who she is. She's a radical left lunatic. So the answer is yes, but I can also make a case for not doing it.
Harris has said she's ready to debate Mr. Trump. For her part, the vice president's focusing on reproductive rights, looking to link Mr. Trump to Iowa's new restrictions on abortion after 6 weeks.
Which makes Iowa the 22nd state in our country to have a Trump abortion ban.
Behind closed doors, J.D. Vance telling donors that running against Kamala Harris instead of President Biden was a little bit of a political sucker punch, according to a recording obtained by the Washington Post. Vance adding Kamala is a lot younger and obviously not struggling in the same ways that Joe Biden did. A Vance spokesperson saying Harris's, quote, far left ideas are even more radioactive than Joe Biden. Harris is also set to decide on a running mate by the middle of next week. And this morning, one major contender out. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper withdrawing his name from consideration overnight.
Well, thank you, Hallie. And staying on the topic of politics, just hours after Vice President Kamala Harris announced the beginning of her campaign, she became a complete internet sensation. WAFF Washington News Bureau correspondent Stetson Miller explains how that happened. Let's take a listen.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Coconut trees, the color lime green, and a British pop star have fueled a huge boost for Vice President Kamala Harris's brand new presidential campaign. The social media firestorm around her started hours after her campaign launched, and much of it was fueled by singer Charlie XCX, who tweeted out, "Kamala is Brat," a reference to the name of her most recent album with a lime green cover.
This idea of you can be both the silliest version of yourself and the most serious version of yourself all in one is kind of what I think it means to be Brat. And I think that's what Kamala Harris is.
Emma Mott is the vice president of Organizer Memes, a collective of former political organizers turned professional memers who help out Democratic campaigns and nonprofits with social media. She thinks Harris took off on social media because so many young people were relieved, felt like they could relate to her.
It's a collective sigh of relief that we finally, we have a candidate that gets everyone excited, not just a specific part of the Democratic Party, but we love young people. We want someone who can be silly. We want someone who can be kind of real with us.
And the significance of coconut trees and Harris memes, That's a reference to a story she told back in May 2023.
My mother she would give us a hard time sometimes, and she would say to us, I don't know what's wrong with you young people. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Kamala Harris, telling the story of the way her mom used to say, do you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Something about that is so authentically goofy that it really speaks to the kind of vibe that Gen Z has.
Concerns about the Harris memes becoming uncool or being overplayed are brewing now, but Emma believes as long as she keeps doing what she's been doing and doesn't directly address them, they could help propel Harris all the way to the White House. In Washington, I'm Stetson Miller.
Thank you, Stetson. Now let's turn to the latest on the fast food wars. McDonald's reported a surprising drop in sales for the first time in years, suggesting Americans are increasingly fed up with high prices from inflation. NBC business and data correspondent Brian Chung has the details.
This morning, McDonald's noting that customers are not loving those high prices.
$17 for 3 Filet-O-Fishes at McDonald's? Are you kidding me?
The company saying sales fell 1% last quarter compared to the year before, the first time same-store sales have fallen globally since 2020, with fewer customers seeking out the golden arches for their fast food fix.
So what are consumers doing instead if they're not going to McDonald's?
With fast food prices in particular going up, consumers are watching that and they're saying, all right, I'm just not going to visit as often as they used to.
McDonald's execs telling shareholders the company needs to lure back low-income consumers frustrated by high menu prices.
We expect customers will continue to feel the pinch of the economy and a higher cost of living for at least the next several quarters in this very competitive landscape.
What happened to the dollar cheeseburgers?
After hearing customer complaints earlier in the summer, McDonald's jumped into the fast food wars, announcing a $5 value meal including a cheeseburger, fries, McNuggets, and a drink. Today has learned the company plans to extend the popular program through August. Erlinger telling Savannah last month that they're trying to respond to customers.
Did consumers essentially force your hand by being fed up?
Customers are telling us that they're really stretched, and so this is a great opportunity for McDonald's to bring them value.
McDonald's feeling the heat from competitors as well. Sonic, Burger King, and Wendy's all offering their own deals. After customer traffic at U.S. fast food restaurants fell 2% in the first half of the year compared to the same period a year ago.
They'll definitely do more discounts the rest of the year. I don't think there's any question that we are in for a prolonged value war in the U.S. restaurant business, particularly with the big fast food chains.
Well, thank you, Brian. Now let's talk about the stories you're just not going to want to miss in tonight's evening newscast. The latest results from the Olympics after today's events, where Team USA stands, and other Olympic news. Make sure you stick around for that tonight. Also, the latest from the Secret Service hearing in Washington, D.C. earlier today. And of course, you're just not going to want to miss a story from 48 Savannah Sap regarding eelgrass in Scottsboro. These are just a few of the stories you're just not going to want to miss in our evening newscast. And of course, you already know what I'm about to say. You're not going to want to miss the first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Brad Travis to see what the weather is going to do the remainder of the week. Now, of course, it is time for our Facebook fun segment of Before the Four, and let's pull up today's question, why don't we? Let's see. We asked, are you a morning person or a night owl? Work has kind of made me into being more of a morning person, but I think at heart, I'm a night owl. I definitely like the nighttime, being outside at night. It's just so calming. I think I will say I'm a night owl, but let's see what you all had to say. Ivy Thompson is a morning person. All right, well, that makes one of us. But Ivy, thank you so much for commenting. Lynn, she says, night owl all the way, hooty hoot. Hooty hoot to you, Lynn. Me as well. I definitely like being out at night. I just like the nighttime. Lynn, thank you so much for commenting. And Melissa said both. let's see about this. She stays up to 2 or 3 in the morning, and then she goes to bed and up, or go to bed and up no later than 6. So Melissa, you are getting about maybe 3 hours of sleep a night. Melissa, you need some sleep. But Melissa, thank you so much for commenting. Well, that is just about all the time I have in today's Before the 4. Make sure you all stick around for tonight's newscast. Again, the 4 o'clock will be streamed right where you're watching right now. So whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, or whether it is the 48 Now live stream page on WAFF.com, that is where our 4 o'clock newscast will be because of our Olympic coverage. But stick around for the 5, the 6, and the 10. That will be on TV as normal. But make sure you all stick around. Don't go anywhere. You just have to just keep watching. We'll start another live stream page as soon as this one ends. But I want to thank you all for watching and spending a little bit of your Tuesday afternoon with me. I hope you all have a great afternoon. And of course, as we like to end it, thanks for watching. You all have a great night.